My name is Michael Clayton. I'm 62 years old and I live in Kent, United Kingdom. I live in a fishing seaside town named Whitstable. So the first trauma occurred when I was still in the womb. My mother told me that when she was 8 months pregnant, my father and they were living in Kenya in Africa. My father was working at the University of Nairobi. He had insisted on taking my mother out into the bush on safari. My mother had been really reluctant. She was 8 months, she wasn't feeling well and she didn't want to go. But my father insisted and so she went. And on a particular afternoon when the party of people, in those days, incidentally, in those days there was no safari lodges. When you were out in the bush, you were sleeping in tents out in the bush. There was no protection in that sense. So on this particular afternoon, the party, including my father, had all gone out looking for big game to photograph the animals. My mother had stayed in the camp on her own because she was feeling so unwell she couldn't travel out. And she explained to me she'd been sitting outside her tent late afternoon, having a drink, and without any warning, a huge African elephant came storming into the camp. And it came rushing across to her and stopped within 12 feet of her. And she explained she was utterly terrified. I asked her on a scale of 1 to 10 how frightened she'd been, and she said 1,000%. She wet herself, and the experience was deeply traumatic for her. In modern day terms, that resulted in her being postnatally stressed, and she spent the last month of her pregnancy with me in a state of anxiety and tension, terrified that the experience had somehow affected me or had deformed or damaged me in some way. The second trauma occurred after I was born, when my mother was 80. She told me that she had been depressed after I was born and that she had had no maternal feeling whatsoever, no feeling of relating to her baby. And that as a consequence, she didn't speak to me for the first year of my life, and that I had spent significant periods of time lying in the cot, unstimulated and effectively abandoned. In a sense, when she told me this, I already knew, because I'd been living with the consequence of that my entire adult life, or my entire life. But by explaining to me in reality what had happened, it confirmed for me that this experience that I'd been grappling with all my life had a causation, that it arose out of a specific experience. And I've spent a significant part of my adult life seeking to understand the experience and to work with the experience that resulted, as a result of that trauma. It was through expressing myself through painting that also provided a very powerful vehicle for me to cathect deeper feelings creatively onto the canvas. So the process it became very intense, and at its most intense, I was painting 5 pictures a week. And was recording sometimes 3 or 4 dreams a week. and working through this material, expressing myself powerfully through the art, through poetry, over time created a strong healing process related to working with archetypal images inside of me, restoring a positive feeling of a mother archetype and a male archetype, and feeling a process of integration going on over time. That the whole process proved to be enormously healing and helpful for me. I've arrived at a point now where this much has been accomplished internally in terms of healing the schizoid complex and feeling a sense of resolution on a number of deep issues related to maternal deprivation and also related to father and his absence and so on. The last stage of the process, though, which is in some ways the most difficult part, is to share this experience and to bring it out into life and to bring it out into relationship, so that the part of me that I bury deeply is also coming out, almost being born into or reborn into relationship with the world and with other human beings through my sharing of my journey. And that is the genesis or the evolution of this exhibition. That I've reached a point in the therapeutic process where I'm ready to share something that I believe is of value and is of significance to other human beings, but is also very much connected to my becoming more confident in sharing a place in me that has been profoundly weak and profoundly vulnerable and unable to show its face until now. So the exhibition in London in September, which will be held at the top floor of the Centre for Counselling and Psychotherapeutic Education, which my therapist is the director. The exhibition will be on the top floor, a wonderful space for exhibiting the pictures and the dreams and the poetry. Will take place there, and it's my hope that as many people will attend that 4-day exhibition as possible. A lot of people, a lot of organizations, therapists, psychotherapy organizations, Jungian organizations, play therapy organizations have been invited to this event, as well as my entire community, the people that in my professional life, a lot of people are attending, my family, Buddhist friends, landmark friends, and so on, are attending this event as a way of helping me, as I say, to share what I've experienced, what I've been through, and to hopefully provide inspiration and hope to others who are or also have struggled with similar issues, and that, if nothing else, this provides a vehicle or provides what? Provides an understanding that it is possible to work with primal, or to work with trauma, and to find a way of harnessing, of working with primal feelings as a driver for healing, for growth and for healing, rather than for suffering and pain. Hi. This is day 3 of my exhibition, and I'm really pleased at how this has unfolded. There was a lot of preparation and also a lot of anxiety leading into this event, relating to showing the world or revealing to the world something that's been very private and very hidden for many, many years. So now to see it on the walls and looking so magnificent in the way that it's been put up, I'm very happy, and people who have been coming to see it have been really positive and really enthusiastic about the exhibition and their feedback. So I'm here to just explain a little bit about the process of my therapy and how it relates to what's on the walls here, so that the viewer here can understand a little bit about what's going on here. So it's the urge to express the feelings or the images that have come out of the dream work that has led to me expressing myself artistically. And that really came out of nowhere. I hadn't painted since I was at school. I've had no training in painting. So it was my therapist who encouraged me to start to try to express these feelings through some creative medium. Could have been anything, music or writing, but in this case I started to try to paint. And this first picture on the wall here, this is the very first picture that I created. Okay. So these two paintings here are expressions of my, if you like, my schizoid split. It's the heart of my darkness, and it came when I began therapy. I was in a very, very difficult place and feeling that most of my efforts in life had failed, and I felt very isolated and deeply alone, and these pictures were an expression of that. But in expressing that, something, after 2 or 3 weeks of therapy, something happened partly to do with the relationship with my therapist, that something special happened between us in terms of the bringing together of our energies, so that once in these paintings something clicked, and I found a sort of confidence in my willingness and my capacity to express myself through this medium. So that very quickly led on to doing all of these pictures here. And as I gained in confidence in terms of expression, so the urgency to create grew. And I think that's the right word. I felt that there was a sort of sense of needing to express all of this energy or this emotion as part of the healing process. So it was enormously cathartic to express myself in this way. And the urge came from in my body, deep in my solar plexus, which was a very different place from where I'd operated all my life, which is essentially in my head. So a split between the body and the mind. And this expressing myself from deep in my gut with this cathartic, creative energy led to me becoming prodigious in producing art. So at times, when it was at its most rich, if you like, I was expressing 5 pictures a week, painting 5 pictures a week. And that, together with continually dreaming and continually recording my dreams and continually working on my dreams, led to a number of years of intensive therapeutic work with my therapist, who is a master at understanding the language of dreams, and an uncanny intuitional ability to understand my inner life and to know exactly just where to make an intervention in terms of harnessing my creative imagination to work with different elements internally as part of the healing process. So that's if you like, an explanation of the creative process that led to this exhibition. So moving on to the second cycle, the pictures change in the second cycle, and they're associated with expressing different feelings. So whereas as we discussed in the first cycle, it was about connecting with the feelings associated with this schizoid split, which are feelings of profound isolation and loneliness and feeling really cut off. In the second cycle, I started to connect with much softer feelings related to the feminine, and so the pictures change in the quality of the shapes and the more flowing, the more flowing kind of energy. And this phase was perhaps over a couple of years. Where it seemed that the dreams that I was bringing and the pictures that I was producing were all associated with establishing something positive in relation to the feminine archetype, sense of the feminine within me, receptivity, and allowing the world for the first time to allowing the world to come into a very dark and isolated place, a little by little. And in my relationship with Nigel, a feeling of growing closeness and intimacy with him. So if we move down here to the third wall, and this is the third cycle of the therapy. Of course, in reality, there's no distinct demarcations of these cycles. One flows into the other in a kind of organic and natural way. But for the sake of clarity and exhibition, this was the third cycle, which I've entitled Awakening. And this cycle was very much to do with establishing the masculine and connecting with something really positive internally relating to heroic qualities, warrior-like qualities, which had been so absent in my relationship with my real father, my physical father.
So, my name's Sam, and I am Mike's middle son, or middle child, the second son. And sitting here and just sort of being with all of this incredible expression of my dad's journey is, I can't really believe it actually. It's taken a long time for it to sink in and actually fully realize that it's actually like happening and manifest, because just to see my dad go from such an unhappy and hurt place to being so confident and bold and courageous, to expressing so openly is just it's amazing, it's beautiful, and like not only is it amazing for him, but it's amazing for the whole family. It's like a deeply healing thing for all of us to be able to come together and support him, and to, it's like all families, right? You have there's so much love, but there's also this hurt and woundedness and darkness that really has it. Kind of everyone just inherits it, everyone just kind of you just receive it. It's passed down the lineage, and in a way this here, with our dad stepping in boldly to self-express in this way, the healing process is like an end of some kind of family, darkness in the family, and now there's just light and love and acceptance and joy, and it's just incredibly moving and beautiful to be a part of it.
The progress that I've made since the therapy began in the first cycle in relation to a confidence now to come to finally reveal fully to the world something that has been completely hidden and private and locked away. And so a sense of a positive, strong feeling of desire to share with the world something of my journey in terms of opening the heart and realizing the theme of this exhibition, which is that there's no wound so deep that it can't be healed. And that in 10 years of work here, there's the schizoid split which arose before I even had a language, and it was a very deep trauma to get in touch with. Through this work and through this creating these images, I have found a way of connecting with primal feelings associated with the trauma, working with those primal feelings, expressing those primal feelings, and now at the point where I can share them in a way that hopefully can encourage others or inspire others to believe in the possibility of moving from a place of darkness and despair into a life of love and connectedness.